that average spending there, 1840. That's a good number. Or actually this. Okay. I would be able to say no. I look at our overall satisfaction score.
That's a good one. Okay, I'm so sorry. Is that okay? Are you guys okay?
Yes, I think we saved, let's just see, exit, what do you need to do? Let's just save this and then do something like. You just. Is that what you do?
I think, yeah, I hope.
Great, and then you want me to make this whole?
There's a couple of that.
Stacy, did you invite some council members to speak?
Great, no, this is good.
This is weird, it's kind of chilling.
Well, they're finishing up.
I understand.
They are.
Thank you, Jen.
Oh, all we have to do is hit, sorry. They do.
Okay. Okay.
I hear it's got a good show coming.
Good show, good show. Like, if, and I think the only ways these today would go over is the questions. Yeah. Okay, so just now,
They're not like. You know. Right, it's just. I remember this.
Oh, that's right.
Steve.
Thanks, you do.
hey, Jess.
Yeah.
That is open.
Yep. On the AV part.
Excellent and good afternoon, everyone. A little after 4 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the work session for the Frisco Town Council. First up this afternoon is a Recreation Department winter operations update. Z and team are here. Presentation is queued up. You're working on that every day. So far, all the feedback I've heard, everything I've seen personally, spring setup, spring operation. Things are going well. Little kiddo camps to trails and all in between. So nice work. Looks great. Phenomenal feedback.
Well, thank you guys for having us here tonight. We're here to give you an update on the 2022-2023 winter season. That includes our Tubing Hill, our Ski Ride Hill, and our Nordic Center. So during this presentation, we welcome you guys to ask questions, provide feedback. We're happy to answer any questions you have. And just quick recap, as you know, the Frisco Adventure Park Peninsula Recreation Area, we have kind of a couple different acronyms here. We'll go throughout the slideshow as well. But it's home to a variety of both summer and winter recreational amenities. And then the mission, just a quick reminder, the mission of the Frisco Adventure Park is to provide and support a diverse range of year-round recreational activities that make all visitors feel welcome to the Frisco community. So I'm going to just introduce Aaron Sachs, is the general manager at the Frisco Adventure Park, and then Pete Swenson is a Nordic and Trails manager, and they are going to walk you through what our winter season looks like.
So thank you for having us today. And we are excited to talk about winter. Anybody praying for snow yet? We got plenty of months hopefully to embrace all the snow that towards us once again. But I guess I should ask you guys, how many of you visited us this winter? I feel like I've seen a couple people out there. I've got a good handful. Good. Yeah, we've got a lot going on at the Adventure Park between the Nordic Center and the Tubing Hill, the Ski and Ride Hill. So to kind of kick off the presentation today, I'm going to share with you some of the so anything from starting our snowmaking in October through the end of the season in April, and then I'll be handing it off to Pete. I'll share some more about Nordic with you. So to get things moving right away, our snowmaking this past season, we were very fortunate in October that we did have cold temperatures, which allowed us for some 24-hour snowmaking. Typically, our snowmaking staff comes on in mid-October. We were actually able to start making snow soon after, or just days after we began, actually. Our total gallons used, so as you may have heard before, our 30 acre foot is the limitations that we currently have. So what you see on here, basically the water year is November 1st through October 31st. However, our fiscal year and billing year is January 1st to December 31st. So our number here is just for reference anyway. This is going to be for that winter season, not necessarily the fiscal season too. But as far as the Tubing Hill, we were able to open on Thanksgiving Day and operate through April 9th. That's usually what our goal is, typically what we advertise for too. So it was a good start to the season to get some revenue generating and at least get some folks in during those holiday times to kind of kick things off. I think I put on here as well, yes, the Nordic Center opening December 1st. So just 1 week or one Thursday later after that. Part of that was due to the movement of snow that has to take place. So our Tubing Hill, we're obviously blowing snow up and down the hill. We do have a snow gun and a tower over by the Nordic Center, but that doesn't involve a lot of snow pushing in order to get a trail going. But Pete will kind of check that a little bit further. So as far as our lanes that we were able to start with, our goal this season was to get back to a larger number. So in the previous winter, we only had 3 tubing lanes that were open. This is kind of coming out of the COVID era. So this past winter, we were able to open the season with 3 and add 2 longer lanes by December 17th. So our goal in doing that was to be able to accommodate more guests throughout the season and have the option to for short versus long, just giving more for the customer experience as well. We did operate the same as many years past, so 5 days a week. We typically run Thursday through Monday and are closed on Tuesday, Wednesday. Most of that is really due to how many staff it does take to truly run the operation. Because we do obviously have guest service staff on the inside, our outdoor staff that are manning the magic carpet, the hill, and just ensure everybody's safe and following. So yeah, it was a great start to the season. We kind of began that with our recruitment, which we go back as early as usually around September time. So this is one of the biggest things I was focused on kind of changing this season. It's been really hard specifically coming through those COVID years as well to maintain staff for the duration of the season. It is a tough job to be outside, you know, we don't have the sweet ride breaks that the Vail Resorts places has too. So to get people engaged who want to work at a tubing hill. And although there's other amenities that we have to offer. So one of the things that had happened in the past, most of our full-time winter seasonal staff members who've been hired previously worked only in the outdoor capacity. So that means 5 days a week, they're outside pushing tubes, which can be very tedious, demanding based on the weather that occurs, and also very repetitive and, you know, the same guest questions coming more. So what we decided to kind of shift this year was to have our guest service staff, which we only work indoors. We did for anybody that was being hired in a full-time position, we did a 4-1 split. So meaning that they would start the season with 4 days working outdoors to ensure that we have the coverage that we need, 1 day rotating inside, whether that be in our guest service, cafe, or even kind of out of a greeter position that we're trying to mitigate directing people this year too. So in doing that, I do think that it's truly helped our retention throughout this winter. The goal was to kind of, as we said, let the chips fall where they go. We had a handful of staff who really enjoyed working outdoors. For those ones after they did their initial few weeks, we decided, okay, we're going to schedule you outside. We had the handful who needed those inside shifts because that's what their skill set was. So we were able to find a nice balance amongst the full-time staff. But outside of, you know, just the change up of even the job title, change it to winter adventure attendant instead of tubing hill attendant, which seemed to attract some more people. Using Coolworks was one of our websites that just attracts a lot of seasonal adventure, job seeking, you know, younger staff members. But the biggest factor I put on here was our talent. So this was truly vital to being able to recruit and keep the folks that we were. If we don't have beds to put them in, you know, it's, as we all know, the cost of living is difficult for any sort of young staff member. So we were able to have up to 15 bed spaces this past winter, which we filled all of them. We had a couple come and go through the season, but at the end of the day, that was exactly why we were able to keep the staff that we did. So some of the new things to cover this winter, we did have a new snowcat replaced that was from a 2012 older snowcat that has been aging out. We've got a 10-year, I guess, rotation, if you will, on these currently. One of the biggest changes as well also is our Smart Waiver. So Smart Waiver is an electronic waiver system that we started using just a couple of years ago. We have previously used it for folks signing up for maybe a summer registration, and they would just fill things out online. However, we didn't have an in-person option. So what we added this year was utilizing tablets in our ticket office. So if people had not filled it out ahead of time, they were able to do so on site without the stacks of paper. And for any of you that may have visited the Day Lodge basements, you will see the many shelves and boxes of paper waivers currently. But our goal was, you know, part of our sustainability initiative to kind of minimize some of that, because, you know, during an average tubing day, a low number would be maybe 300 to 400 guests coming through, up to 900 on a busy day. So if you think about adding in people that are on the ski and ride hill, you could have easily 1,000 waivers being signed a day. So that's a lot of waivers over the duration of the season.
Are you supposed to hang on?
You know, great question. Maybe I should ask you. Start to Ryan here to discuss that, but
Less than 3.
yeah, so we probably will do a little bit of purging here now that we had some reorganization down there this year, but it's time to make some room. Yeah. There you go. So one of the other things we added as well, this is really just trying to get folks to fill out these waivers prior to their visit, was a welcome email. So this was something new that our guest service manager added in this season. And it was really, we would take a week ahead of folks that were going to be visiting us and sending out, here's our theme week that's happening, here's what's going on. Please follow this link to fill out your waiver. So that did help a lot of the congestion that we do in the ticket office on site, because there's waves every 15 minutes for our tubing guests coming. So that did help some of that as well. Then our recreation maintenance technician, this was a position that had been filled once before, but had been vacant for quite some time. So we do have a staff member that was brought on in October to specifically work with Magic Carpet maintenance, any of our snowcat, anything mechanical, snowmobile, and he had his work cut out for him this season too. So it was a great time to bring on the staff member. Super excited to have him. He's now working over at the marina. This is a 50-50 marina winter position, but this did allow to the public works staff that had been previously assisting with a lot of the repairs that we needed. We now have somebody who can focus on that and fill that time, so Public Works can focus on more of what their role is as well. The law, so safety side of things, this is a large part, obviously, of what we do out at the Adventure Park in general. So this season, one of the goals was just kind of increasing our protocol in general, updating all of our medical equipment that we have. So a lot of the bags that we have in various locations, whether that be at the top of the magic carpet, the base of the hill, even at the Nordic Center, just ensuring that we have everything we need when emergencies do occur. A lot of these, anything from just a guest who's dealing with altitude sickness to a possible collision or a fall or anything like that. So we were able to have a staff member kind of go through and inventory all our older stuff, get that updated so we could be better prepared for any incidents. One of the things we were excited about too was our new vacuum immobilizer. This was added probably in January, I want to say, but this is just another. Or actually, Hunter, I was going to ask you if you're familiar with this one, the feedback board system. It's pretty neat. So just a really lightweight, kind of idiot-proof, if you will, even if you need extra hands to help move a patient or anybody that's had an injury. So we did several staff training with this just to ensure everybody was able, should an incident occur, to be able to utilize and move a patient to a safe area where they can, removed. Yeah. We really don't in general, we're just being prepared for them. So the few ones that we had this year were ski hill related, no major injuries, thankfully. And it's, in fact, there was not a single person that we had to move via an immobilizer this year. Most of them think, with the hospital nearby were, oh, I hurt my wrist, snowboarder fall, things of that nature.
And we put in that underpass at the hospital. It's good.
Quick access there. Then just some signage, so that's what we've added on here too. We did add the responsibility code. This has not been on our hill prior, so just getting it with the yurt, with some signage in our building as well, just to help our guests understand it is their responsibility to follow certain guidelines when they are in a downhill situation. Last couple of things that we had added to for any of you who have been tubing are 2 bottom pads. So this was added in the middle of the season this year. One of the biggest maybe complaints we'll say we've had in the past is little kids who do meet our height requirement, but they don't fill up the tube, so therefore their bottom they get bounced around a little bit. So a lot of little kids end up not having the best experience because they're getting bounced around. So these 2 bottoms just fit right in the bottom of all of our tubes. We've had many adults who've enjoyed this improvement too. So you get a lot of that hit their tailbone or as you go over roller number 3. But that's been a really nice addition. We plan to continue adding more of these to all of our tubes, if you will. And then lastly, our staff training revamp. This was during our week 1 training prior to the season starting, really just encompassing more than has been happening in previous years. So just wanted to be more thorough with knowing that we do have a lot of new staff. In previous years also, there has been some rollover staff members from season to season. In the last few, it's been mostly new. So we really want to start with that training too. Any questions so far, guys?
How often do you replace tubes?
Some annually, so basically it's the tube cover that usually withstands. It's the tube picture like a tire actually inside. Some get a little lopsided over time. So we usually buy some new ones every season, maybe 20 a season, and they kind of rotate, but we have nearly 200 of them depending on any tube. All right, so we'll kind of shift over to our beginner ski and ride hill here. So this opened on December 15th. Usually our snowmaking focus, is always going to start with the tubing hill, next to the Nordic Center, and then back to kind of the ski and ride hill. So we opened a couple weeks after Thanksgiving, obviously. With the snow that we were able to get going out there, we had some good temperatures as we ended the season. So normally, or I should say normally, in some occasions with warming spring temperatures, we've had to close the top section of the hill and only have used access at the bottom. We were able to have top to bottom access through April 9th. So that's always exciting to see. We had just over 1,000 lift tickets sold this year. This, lift tickets in addition to our snow schooler concessionaire. So snow schoolers, this is the ski school that has operated for 2 winters now at the Adventure Park. They are based out of Tahoe, but they've been operating here and opening other little mom and pop areas amongst Colorado, but they have been a huge addition to what we do out there. So any of our ski and ride lessons that are taking place are through the snow schoolers. They did add new this season an option for on-site equipment rentals. This was only provided to anybody that had a lesson book, so if a regular general public bought a lift ticket, they would not be able to rent that. It was just purely for those folks in lessons. And 80% of many of the customers that were booking lessons did actually utilize that. So it's nice to see that. It was one of the questions we get a lot of people on site is where can they get their gear? Typically we're sending them to local businesses as well. But it's great to have that for these guys. So they brought in our revenue share with them is 20%. As you can see on the left there, we just had the breakdown monthly. So January was kind of our busiest month as far as any sort of ski busing goes. And then February, March were pretty close behind that too.
Are they pretty much all kids?
I would say the majority, but we definitely get a lot of family lessons too. So my guess, I would probably say 85% kids. There's definitely some beginner adults as well that utilize it.
Great to ask what they charge.
I will say it's the most affordable. So yeah, they raised the price of the conference, but it was still dirt cheap compared to any major resort. So of course, you're gonna ask me this now. They have anything from an hour lesson to a half day. I think their most popular would be like a half day, 3-hour lesson. Maybe I have to pull it up there too. Yeah. I mean, I want to say it was 1,000. 150-ish for. Yeah, see if you can get up there too. Yeah, and they do an early bird deal on some days as well. That's. Oh, there we go. Oh, so the 1 hour private, okay, 1 hour private is $80, half day private $260, and then their group lessons. I don't know if that has
Know your field? That
It'd be like 300. Yeah. So they are affordable, and I would highly recommend anybody that has just a young child trying to learn affordably, and we get a lot of even just front range folks that are up to that. It's a good deal. So, all right, keep moving. So as far as our participation, going back to kind of the tubing side this year, we had just over 57,000 tubers. This was a big jump compared to the previous year. Part of that being we had 5 lanes open versus 3. We actually had adequate staffing in the 21-22 season. Think about, I think we had 5 full-time staff members then this season. This year we had like 14. So game changer as far as being able to accommodate guests too, because you don't have staff, you can't push tubes. So that's a huge accomplishment from this season that we're really excited about, just to be able to accommodate all the guests that are come out there too. So the next thing is kind of exciting. This is Intercept Insight LLC. This is the company that our rec department utilizes for feedback on events and other programs we do. So I just had a little snippet here, just looking at some of the economic impact in Frisco specifically. There's much more intensive questions that are in this question. But mainly how this works is after any tubing guest or ski and ride, 2 Below Zero sleigh rides, they do get we send an email out within the week of when they visited. So as you can see in the bottom there, just about 9,000 survey invitations were sent. 789 responded. And this is if we have a good email address for them. There's a lot of variables that go into it, but Lindsay and I actually met recently with the staff member, I guess the guy that runs the business anyway. The response rate usually is a 9 to 10% is what they consider a good amount to base their information. So anyway, 15% of the guests visiting the Tubing Hill in general, so this is not including the Nordic Center, did stay in Frisco lodging. The other percentage, a lot of those were staying in Breckenridge, just so you know. It kind of goes through the county of where people are staying in general. And then of those folks staying in Frisco, the average guest was staying 3.8 nights. As you can see, the spending on here was just over $2,000. So people are, these are families who are spending their money coming to visit as well. 53% visited downtown. And then a couple bottom numbers here is just we look at our, the satisfaction ratings that were for adventure park specific, or snow schoolers with those lessons. And then we just added 2 below because that's one that happens to be a question on there too. So we think overall guests are, having a good time when they are visiting all of our amenities. So we have, if anybody wants to ever see more information on this, we do have a full-on pamphlet that you're welcome to check out too. Then just to get to kind of our revenue summary here, just comparing this winter, and once again, this is our winter season. So December 2022 crossing over to January through April of 23. So this is not a fiscal representation. This is truly winter just because we do have other revenue generating for summertime. So snow tubing was up a good bit there, as you can see. And once again, that's because of our lanes, our staffing, our ski and ride tickets. We bumped our prices up just a little bit this season, so I think it's pretty average to the amount of ticket purchases that came out. We do actually limit that as well, just an FYI, because of our snow schoolers. So as you may have seen, it's a pretty narrow beginner hill. We just don't want any collisions to occur. So we do limit that. Our goal is to, at some point, depending on snowmaking, widen our hill a bit, but that is why those numbers look pretty similar. Food and beverage was up a good bit, as you'll see, and that was really because in the previous season, coming out of COVID, we really didn't have the cafe open barely at all, mainly weekends. This season, we were able to do that. Part of that, once again, was staffing. Retail was down a little bit. This one is mainly because we had our plastic sleds that we removed at the end, or we had some that were purchased at the end of last winter that we sold at the beginning of December, and we did not repurchase those. And part of that was our initiative with minimizing plastic too. So that was a good chunk of what we do. So we're looking at some other options for this coming year as to replacements of what will be for that.
What else do we have for retail? T-shirts and stuff?
Ours is mainly a lot of gloves, goggles, sunscreen, water bottles, stuff like that. Yeah. Lastly was the snow schooler lessons and rentals. So you'll see those numbers. Most of that is because of the equipment rentals. So jumping up to 58,000 versus 29. Increasing. So getting into our community and partnerships. So at the Adventure Park, we've worked a lot with Team Summit, which is our local organization for youth programming, obviously. The bubblegum races many of you have heard of have continued free. We're excited about that. They had their run this past winter on Wednesdays. Then the new program, so we were just talking about Zeke earlier. Zeke Shredders is the namesake of a new after-school program that is for basically alpine skiing and riding. This is not necessarily a beginner program. We offered this to Frisco Elementary School kids and any other community. I guess it was first to fifth grade. I forget, kindergarten. 5-year-olds. Okay. We're welcome to come. We just only had provided transportation from Frisco Elementary since we have limited resources with that. But very excited to be able to have more youth, opportunities and utilize the tubing hill or the ski and ride hill, I should say, for that, which we've really never done before. Then with our nonprofit school outings, we did have some school groups. We get a large number from outside of the county as well that utilize their trips here. And then some of our town of Frisco grant recipients were also able to come out and utilize, for staff retreats and things. Some newer things happening this winter was with ski-mo racing. It's obviously a growing sport in the area too. So we did have women's sprint race and some youth training that was with Pete's assistance on a little boot pack trail outside there that they were able to utilize through the season too. And then last couple of things, obviously we have our free sledding hill that has continued on and gets a lot of action through the winter. And then in our springtime, it's the free spring terrain park. So that's where we have our ski and ride features opened up. Well, as long as the snow will allow. So this year we were very fortunate that they lasted just over a month, but that's pretty exciting too. So with some of the challenges we faced this year, so we had some funky weather. I guess we always have a little bit of funky weather, but we had some pretty exceptionally cold days that did cause closures, high winds, snow squall, negatives. So there was a handful of those that we did have to work through with getting, communicating out with our customers. As far as maintenance goes, we had a carpet slice that was just giving us hell through the month of March, basically. So just having some repairs to ensure the safety of all of our guests. So we had a planned closure one day to work on this, and then we had an unplanned that we had to close early one day just to ensure that we weren't taking any risks out there. So that'll be a summer project we're working on too. The carpet did finish out the season successfully, but we do have something we're going to work on further before opening next season. And the last couple are really just equipment related. We did have our snowmobile that we've been having issues with that had seized. So that is one of the budget items we are pushing through this year to get a replacement prior to our snowmaking. And then our snowcat repair from the 2016. This was one that had a push frame, large object that breaks or broken. Became broken anyway after pushing maybe some rocks in our boat yard, we'll say. So Public Works did have to rent another snowcat in order to be able to do some snow storage maintenance. So that was the only kind of the main stuff that we were dealing with this year. And then lastly, looking ahead to 2024.
So do you guys run, you've got the new snowcat,
And is that like just for grooming and stuff, and then you got another snowcat for movement stuff? or
Yeah, well,
something?
in general, they both would be doing that. The older one, because it was down for quite some time. By the end of the season, it was used for that as well. In general, we always want to, for our build at the beginning of the season and to alternate, so if there is a mechanical issue, it can be addressed. It left us a little bit tight because thankfully we had a new snowcat, so we didn't have to worry too much about any issues occurring. But normally there would be two, one is for pushing, also is for snow maintenance. Yeah. Lastly, yeah, so looking ahead. Some of the goals that we have moving forward are, related to removing plastic. So that's the big thing, I think, on everybody's mind lately. There's not a whole lot left, I will say, that the Day Lodge has there, but we're going to continue to minimize anything, whether that be in our cafe or even in our retail offerings too. With cafe, this was just put on here because we're excited for our slope side renovation that will be happening for another year, but some of the feedback that we typically get is just having more items available. Last season, it was a big step for us getting back to operating more frequently, but we still want to continue to grow that area too. And also as a revenue generating option. And then with our relationships, partnerships, this is really just continuing those community, whether it be programs, whether it be field trips, and some of the youth organizations that we want to work with to provide more opportunities to utilize, the amenities that we do have. And as you'll see on here, the Find Your Next Adventure, this was the tagline that was put out in the 2020 master plan that we're really trying to bring to life this coming year. So with some of our revamps for things going on, we are really trying to incorporate that and create just a little bit of we're working on a revamped safety video as well, but just to have a little bit of a new fresh look, since we've had the same old penguins for quite some time now. Those of you who've been there. So part of this, where it says Spanish inclusion too, that was, we are looking at our safety video to include Spanish subtitles, to also have a Spanish voiceover option. Also this year, we did add in our ticket office some Spanish translated information for people that were purchasing tickets too. But yeah, we're just trying to be more inclusive to our community and guests as well, so. Any other questions before we take it over to me here? That's a TV.
Thanks. Nordic season, seems like a long time ago. We try and open on Thanksgiving. It was a little slow. This year we did open on December 1st, but we opened a little over 1.5 kilometers, which for early season in Summit County isn't unheard of. It's always an inconsistent time of year. We went to a 9 to 4 a couple of years ago, and we are open 7 days a week. Of these points here, I think the staff retention one is probably what I'm most proud of. We have we have a lot of people that work 1 or 2 days a week, which works extremely well. People come in highly motivated but not burnt out. So that model, it takes some managing because you have a large staff to connect all the staff, but we were successful there. Here, Spanish speaking instructor was, if you're in guest services or retail, you have a lot of Spanish speakers, you have more than you can imagine. And seeing our guests come in and just light up when they're talking to Liz, it was fantastic. I would really like to find anybody who can speak Spanish in a guest facing is amazing, super valuable. So it was just a joy to see her engaging with all of our Spanish speaking customers. JK, who sat in your seat here, he encouraged us to bring in some sit skis, and so we brought in one. He was our instructor for hire, and that went out a number of times. Also, people that have a knee injury can get in a sit ski and get out and double pole. So that was something that was new with us. We also cut out the paper. We are fully on Smart Waiver and tablets. We are on an alternating every 2 years. We flip one of our snowcats. And this was really critical. If there's one thing I would have done differently when I came in the door 6 winters ago, we started with one snowcat. You can't run a ski area with one snowcat. because they're just too fragile. And when there's no grooming, there's no skiing. Imagine if you drove up from Denver to go ski in Copper and every lip wasn't turning that day. So we have 2 snowcats and we did not miss a single day of movement. That works really well. Our groomers come in at midnight throughout the week.
Your 2 snowcats, the 2 that were referenced earlier, were
2 different ones.
totally different. So we have 4.
Yes.
We as a town have 4.
Nordic ones are a little smaller. They don't push snow as well. They got to fit in the trail. Still very expensive. But it's, you know, that was always what I would dread, turning on my phone when I get up and getting a text from the groomer about, you know, a snowcat issue. And now with this alternating program, it's working really well. So they, like I said, they come in at midnight, they're out the door at 1 a.m., trying to wrap up grooming usually about 8:30. So with 2 of them, it's also cut down, it's helped their quality of life. So we do a split. Sometimes one of them will do the home learning center. We'll also do a split shift. We meet the groomers on the rec path 3 days a week. So that adds a little bit of time as well in the rec path. Free skiing for kids 12 and under is noteworthy. We are one of the only Nordic centers that I could find doing some research that extends that up to age 12, which I think is critical. 5 and under, 6 and under, that doesn't really move the needle in terms of trying to bring people into skiing. And I always said, I mean, if you want to get into Nordic skiing or motocross, your parents better be into that sport. It's really hard to get into. So now, if you can tell a parent it's free for your kid, we are seeing more. Never ever, you know, the parents don't ski, but they'll come and they can get their kids skiing. So that was a big help. What we did there was when I started, it was master skiers paid $40. We raised the masters to 170. I heard about it. But with that offset the revenue so we could give kids 12 and under free skiing. As I mentioned, we run the rec path 3 days a week. Events, we didn't add any events. These are all continuing. We think it was our 52nd annual Gold Rush. Those numbers keep going up. So that's encouraging. Eat, Ski, and Be Merry was very successful. That was late January. Cold and dark, but successful. We hosted the high school state championships, which was really neat. That brought out a ton of parents, and it brings a lot of people to Frisco. So it's neat to show off our Nordic Center to the whole state. And then we do one of the bubblegum races is also a Nordic race. Those are run with Team Summit. In terms of our specific programs, our event master ski program, JK is extremely involved in this. We brought this in-house, I think 3 years ago now. It used to be an independent program. We had over 325 visits. Those are not unique visits, but the master program is well attended. 15 to 30 people will come out for a session. They come out twice a week. After school training, this is honestly my favorite day of the week. It's just, the place is just overrun with kids. And there's middle schoolers, there's high schoolers, and then there's the Summit Nordic, which is now Team Summit. So you got all different levels of skiers and they're all out there. Half of them are playing hockey with a soccer ball on skis. And then they're just all over the place. So that's a good day at the Nordic Center. Building Hope had a couple of days where they encouraged the Tino families who had never skied to come out, take a lesson, and give you rentals. And those, we were seeing 8 to 15 people come out and try Nordic skiing. It's good, which is good it's an intimidating sport to get into. FDRD volunteers. These were our essentially people that through FDRD, they manage it. They go out and we're checking people for trail passes, which I'll come to later. It's our biggest problem right now. It's people that are skiing, not buying a trail pass. FDRD brings it for volunteers. We train them up and then we pay them back with punty passes to go. And punty passes are transferable. So you have a punty pass, you could give it to a friend. So, but it was a good start in terms of getting more people buying trail passes. Looking at our numbers, they're continuing to go the right direction. you know, Nordic skiing, as long as I've been in it, everybody thinks, oh, this is the year it's just going to explode. It doesn't ever explode, but it is continuing. It's just this a steady growth, and that's sustainable. And that supports our numbers at the Nordic Center as well. But not all Nordic centers are growing. So it is encouraging to see how we're doing. These are our intercept numbers. They relate pretty closely to what we're seeing at the Tubing Hill. Similar response rate, satisfaction scores there. Again, if you want to go deeper into this, we have those reports. Always nice to see season pass numbers going up. I think that is that's our most critical customer that I hear from daily under moving conditions. How we're doing there, and that's going the right direction. Programs and lessons also has been a winner. We continue to tweak our clinics, and these are 2 to 3 days a week, from beginner skate to masters to everything in between. The numbers are bearing out that we're doing the right things there. We don't do a ton of retail and food and beverage just because of the size of the Nordic Center. You know, we are a one-room Nordic Center essentially. We move the Nordic equipment or the skis out onto the deck, and that is essentially helps us to expand the Nordic Center footprint a little bit. But we will always be just a little bit limited in terms of the guest experience. You have to enjoy being in a log cabin. It is what it is. We do a lot of that. 2011 was the big year here with the fuel treatments. And I would say your constituents and people are going to have concerns as to future fuel treatments in the backyard. You go out to the PRA, you can see what it's going to look like. Challenge for us is in 2011, 90% of the trees get cut down. So now you don't have any anchors to keep the snow on the trails. So you have to do a couple things. Building snow fences was a big one. Snow fences essentially creates a snow making gun if you have snow and wind. We're trying to improve all of the Nordic trail beds. My dream would be in a couple of years that if we could open the whole Nordic Center on 10 inches of snow. Say in New England, it doesn't snow that much. So every trail looks like Wilmington. If you have the time, you want grass, smooth. So in terms of adding snow fences, improving the tread, all the smart trails. Also, the trees are helping growing really fast. They're growing 4 to 6 inches a year. It's unbelievable if you go out and see them. So once the trees that came and started growing in 2012 are now starting to work better for snow anchors.
This is going to pertain also to the backyard. I know we had a couple planting events out there. Should we do more?
Yeah, and I could put a slide if you wanted to come out, because the Forest Service gives us, it doesn't sound like a lot, a little bit over 200 saplings a year.
They provide?
Yeah, they drop them off. I get about a 2-hour warning sometimes. Hey, here we go. And I get 2 pallets. No, they're hardy little blue spruce, and we get a couple pallets of them. And I could show you, if you know what you're looking for, they've actually done really well. And the Forest Service has come out, and I forget what their success rate is, but they're impressed with how we're doing. Peninsula, for some reason, stuff just grows really well up there. I think it has something to do with being surrounded by water. But yeah, we are also trying to add a little bit of diversity, but there are some natural aspen growths out there that you can see. So, and as you know, you can't transplant aspen, they're under the earth or not. It's tough. But there is, looking at the coverage, it's coming in so thick. The Forest Service is going to come do some thinning next summer. That's just the single species that have been.
This will go.
As I mentioned, we have an alternating replacement plan with our snowcaps. This is a nostalgic slide here. On the left there, you can see that's what it looked like in the past. there wasn't a whole lot of east-west connectivity, so we added animals, extended buzzsaw. Also, there's now Reichel's East. Buzzsaw, we took out the soul crushing hill and added 1.2 kilometers. I didn't get one complaint. I was sure somebody was going to say they just lived for that hill. Not a one. But what's neat is now people ski buzzsaw. It's enjoyable. So that was a rewarding improvement. Also, the little specks of yellow, a lot of the trails were needed grading. We call it essentially fixing the camber. They're not flat. A lot of big rocks. We popped some big rocks. You can see on Jody's Nugget West that have been the grouser's been hitting for 30 years. And finally popped those the last summer. And then the improvements down lower, even closer to the North Center, we realigned some of the trails. Just we now no longer share that initial little hill with Two Below Zero. That's been a big help to kind of help separate those two operations. It's better for both of us.
Major food problem from 210? It was for a while.
It's
One crossing.
there's one crossing and it's between 4 and 4:30, so we know when it's gonna happen.
And so you have to go out there?
No.
Agility course. Around it.
They do try and pick up, and it's legit. It's just this one spot, and it tends to be a handful of our skiers that head out at 4 o'clock. It's just not the best time,
Right.
Because the mule's standing out for a while apparently.
I think they're all about it. That seems like a naming opportunity.
So here's again a nice snapshot that looks back at the master development plan, which is now 6 years ago-ish. So, we've been doing a lot of improvements. We're currently building, if you get down this summer off the north end of Crown Point Circle, you'll see we have a full-size excavator down there. The trail is called Last Chance. And that's the last major. We're going to do a little extension on the middle part of Buzzsaw, but we're getting pretty close to being done with major Nordic work. We still want to go fix the camber in a couple places out on Jody's, but progress is, it's you bring a big machine out there, you can get a lot done. And this is these are our approved trails projects. Forest Service District again from 2019. Blue was Nordic, pink summer. You'll see a couple of segments that don't quite make sense. At this time, there was some talk that the Nordic Center might move to the Boneyard or might realign. So we added a couple potential segments that we would want to do if that happened at this time. It's going to happen. So just because something is in a master development plan doesn't mean you have to do it, but we have the ability to do it. In terms of our challenges, as I mentioned earlier, our biggest one is unpaid access. 15, 20 years ago, when I would come skiing here, there was, before the tubing hill, there was this little cabin or a little hut, and you'd pull up and Therese or Jean would look in your car and count the number of people, and you handed them cash. And they got a ticket for every person that drove into the Nordic Center. So it was a really tight operation. Most Nordic Centers are at the end of a 1-lane road. You just have a much easier pinch point to get people to buy a trail pass. We have a free rec path that runs through the Nordic Center. You can put all the signs up you want, and at the end of the day, people are going to make bad choices. Unfortunately, more than we want to know. We had one day our FDRD volunteers on Saturday came in and just cried. They just kind of given up. So many people, they just said, all right, I'm not doing it then. So we have a plan to get everyone out there to buy a trail pass. It's costing us money too. It's $20,000 to $30,000. You do the math at $27 a head. If you bus 10 people, and that's just the 10 that you happen to run into. It's fixable. So we're gonna get there. We talked about that a little bit more on the next slide. In terms of open space, like I said, we're almost built out on the trail network. We can always improve the skiing experience once we fix all the treads. We're gonna be able to open earlier with better skiing more consistently. The idea is if someone plans on visiting us during their vacation, they will have a good ski experience, even if it's not a huge winter. Snowmaking is also another option down the road. If we went down that path, we would want to add a hydrant down in the flats towards the disc golfing area at the bottom of what we call Heartbreak Hill. If we had two places that we could make a big snow pile, we could pretty efficiently, you can never guarantee early season skiing, but that is an option if we chose to go down that road. In terms of enforcement, getting more people to buy trail passes, what we are proposing with the Forest Service is if we get approval to drag the rec path from Miners Creek behind the hospital to the rec path, that would be the free rec path scheme, which would be a win-win because it would reach more people. Essentially, you could also, in cooperation with homeowners, you could drag them all the way to the kayak walk. So if the entire south side of town had free skiing access that connected to the rec path, I think that would be a winner. From the Nordic Center side, then you would require a trail pass to be on the rec path that is really in the Nordic Center. That would be the easiest way to do it. In addition, we're still going to need people out there to check trail passes. Sulphide Hall is going to be a huge help to us. We have, with our expanded trail network, it's very flattering. We get more and more requests from colleges and entities that would like to host races. We politely have to say no to most of them because we don't have any place for registration. There's one toilet in the men's room. There's some challenges that we can deal with, but once we have Slopeside Hall, we can have registration. Clinics could all be based across the street in Slopeside Hall. So we can still have paid customers enjoying the log cabin experience and host some events. So that should be a winner. As I mentioned earlier, we're continuing to improve the trails. And then partnerships there, Team Summit is becoming more and more involved since they acquired and merged with Summit Nordic Club. So working with them on that, trying to make their team is always going to practice at different places, but they really want to make Frisco their home. So we're happy to help.
Yeah, and then we just want to say thank you for having us and letting us take time to highlight our operations and what we sort of out of our blood, sweat, and tears building our teams. And as you can tell, we take a lot of pride and are passionate about what we do, and we instill that in our team. And so we welcome questions, feedback, but just thank you for letting us highlight what we've been up to these past few snowy months.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, nice winner. Questions, thoughts?
I got a few.
Go for it.
Surprise them all. It's a great facility for user out there. One is the thought, I create the distinction, at least in my head, that the Tubing Hill is a tourist amenity. And the Nordic Center is more of a shared facility between the tourists and the locals. So just sort of as, whatever my feedback is worth, I'd love to confirm that we're charging appropriately for the tubing with less price sensitivity than we may have at the center.
Yeah, I think I believe it was 2 winters ago, this is previous to maybe in my role that we had a price increase then. We're looking at that for 2025. I agree in general, our bread and butter, if you will, is going to be guests that are visiting here too. We have a tier of rates, however, so our Frisco residents are getting a discounted rate, our county and so on. So the core of that, and I'm sure we could actually run a report on that too, as to if it's 80% are paying the non-resident rate versus county versus Frisco too. But we always want to maintain that for our locals. Does that make sense too? But continuing to grow that for maybe the
Don't be ashamed of it.
Yeah. And we know that we are the most affordable of the tubing operations, here in the county. And I always look beyond that too, just, Granby. Or even out of state as well, just to see how that compares, but we. I think there is room to grow there too. I agree that. It's interesting when you have certain guests, because everyone's spending money on vacation, they're all spending, this and that, and you're gonna have people that complain no matter what. At the same time, I'm like, hey, go take a look at Keystone's tubing rates, and you'll realize that this is worth what you're getting to. But yeah, so 2025 is our next bump that we were looking at, like. Where the price bump goes.
More seasons down the road.
Correct, or yeah, I'm sorry, not this coming winter, but the following, so
24.
yeah.
And quick, do you have any idea what 10 million gallons of water is costing the facility?
Yeah, I just actually spoke with Ryan recently about this, so it's some real fun math. I'd like to check it out sometime. So on approximately the easiest answer is about 56. So the tiers so Ryan's from our water department, he was able to break this down for me. So the reason it's I think been an ongoing question that has had a really good answer. It's really because the pricing that the water department works with is based on, I have my little notes here too. It's 1,000 to 8,000 gallons are a certain price point. Then from 8,000 to 16,000 is a certain price point. And it kind of moves up in 4 different tiers. Obviously, the bulk of our tier is going to be 50,000 gallons and beyond. So you pretty much have to add up amongst those what kind of that totals to be. The other interesting thing is that the billing for water comes quarterly, except the water year is November 1st to October 31st. So if you think about when we most frequently use our water, it's October, November, December. In a billing year comes at the end. So all these fees actually reset quarterly is my understanding. So for example, let's say we actually made a lot of snow in January. We would start over at that price point and count our way up each quarter. So because we fall at the end, we're just paying a little bit more because that's the timeline it falls in. So that's the approximate that, yeah.
One comment is, anecdotally, because it may have just been developed there, the level of diversity that we have at Tubing Hill exceeds any other place I've ever been inside county. Don't know what it means. It's a beautiful thing to see. And Pete, this is a bit of the softball, but
Thank you.
can we talk about that tire events and the ability, or this is the time for the conversation to say, how do we incorporate this extremely popular element of our recreational activities into our center?
Couple things there. Everyone's all in on fat biking when it doesn't snow. If it snows, the demand and for fat biking goes down significantly. There aren't a lot of good opportunities, space for green fat bike trails at the Nordic Center. It also entails, and I speak of this because as a fat biker, I ride 3 mornings a week before work in the dark, Breckenridge. Town of Breckenridge has 2 guys that groom. That's all they do. I mean, they don't do it every day, but it's not their Nordic team that grooms the town, drag groom the town walls. It's free, it's well done, it's very labor intensive. Because every time you run over it with a drag, unlike you picture a snowcat has a blade, so you're always fixing the trail, fixing the bumps, or fixing the back slope and the camber of the trail. You just keep going over it with a drag. If it starts going this way, you put snow on it, it just goes this way more and more. So you have to hand shovel a lot. So it's labor intensive. It can be done, as Breckenridge has shown. We don't have the staffing for it. And I think the best solution for fat bikers, because I've wrestled with this a lot, is in the backyard. If you look at the backyard plan, there is drag grooming highlighted for the network of trails that would connect the high school to the Nordic Center, to the rec path, to the town. If we wanted to incorporate fat bike trails in the Nordic Center, we would need to revisit that with the Forest Service, but we have done the studies to do that. It would be possible. I'm not convinced that it's the best option for the fat biking community. I look at Gold Run, I have yet to meet a local whoever goes and rides there. It's for the tourists. Riding on a golf course is not very fun. Riding B&B trails, riding hard walk. I mean, some of these, they're fantastic. I would much rather fat bike some of these trails even than in summer. So, if council came to me and said, we want a fat bike network, here's the check at the Nordic Center, I'd happily undertake that as a fat biker and a Nordic skier. Half my Nordic community just clicked off if they're watching. But I don't understand why those two communities just don't invite them to a party. Don't invite a fat biker and a skier. There's a couple of us that do both, but so it is solvable within the Nordic Center. I want to see what comes back from the Forest Service. If we get most of what we would have requested across the street, fat biking communities can be really happy. And then maybe we could add something. I mean, there's a reason it's called the Fat Loop. Originally, that was going to be a fat bike trail, and now it's our snowshoe trail. But we just couldn't keep it. The other problem is compaction. You have to groom it a lot. My groomers already do a full shift, midnight to 9. It's a little bit of everything. But I think we have a solution across the street, is my hope.
Would we have to amend our special use permit for the Nordic Center to include biking?
It wouldn't be hard to do. If I went to the Forest Service and said, as an event, we're going to change all of our Nordic trails to fat bike only, they'd say, really? I could update our management plan to, so yeah, I mean, we could do anything. My other hesitation is I'm only aware of one Nordic Center that has unlimited shared use, and that's Tennessee Pass. And the owners up there, Ty is a crazy fat biker, in a good way crazy. He's passionate about it. He can rent fat bikes. And that community you expect when you go skiing at Tennessee Pass to see a fat biker. I can't think of any other Nordic Center. It works if you cross the trails, so essentially you have to build a separate fat biking trail network to keep the Nordic skiers from losing them. It's the short answer, which can be done. But let's see what our options are.
We also do host a fat bike race at the Nordic Center, the Frisco Breeze, and that number actually significantly jumped this year. But we kind of coined that as the one time you can come legally fat bike on our trails. So we do host that again. That's seen growth this year.
We do have some other options that probably be more appropriate to discuss in a different environment. If we want to incorporate fat bikery sooner at the Nordic Center, there would be some possibilities, but it would require, it would be an after hours thing, which, again, if that's something we really want to do, we could do that. I've talked to people at Zero about what that would look like. So if we have to, and I say, if we want to incorporate fat bikes, it would have to be outside of Nordic operating hours. If we want to do something like next winter, we could look at that. And my cyclist just showed up. Where were you?
We've been running under the radar for 40 minutes.
Where's the biathlon conversation currently? I know it's kind of come and gone with this.
Honestly, it is truly about money. So you need to do a site survey, you need to pay. There's a couple of people that are qualified that come out, survey the site, say you could put it here, or you could put it here. Here are the caveats, here's what you need to do. So if we did, that would be the first step. We need to go pay for a study to say, yes, you could put a range of this size. There's about 2 locations out there that would probably work. It would need to be, it is doable. There are places for it.
Is it an attractive nuisance, or would it be a benefit to the rounding out the operation?
I think, biathlon is, if you like biathlon, if you like ski jumping, I'm a fan of skiing. Large skimo, backcountry, biathlon. So I think it'd be a great event. It would be an investment on, I think if you got the ball rolling and you went to the biathlon community, the National Guard's very involved. I think, but you need to get that ball rolling to start to bring in the funds. It makes sense up here.
What's the staffing implication? I mean, like. I've never been to a Nordic Center that has a biathlon or like shooting range portion, like what is like. Is there oversight with the gun management? Is it just don't bring them inside when you're getting your ticket?
Well, that,
Not, is there any like,
Yeah, it's so Snow Mountain Ranch has a range and you just find out when it's open. And you ski out, and sometimes when you're skiing there, you could hear, and Devil's Thumb used to have a range. Of course, Soldier Hollow, so. Yeah, there would be range hours and, but no, that's very manageable. There's also one up Snowy, the Nordic Center up at Wyoming's got one. So that, if we got down to that part, that's not difficult.
I'd be interested to know, like.
It's niche, but at the end of the day, we're in niche sports, alpine skiing, cross country skiing, lap biking is it's why we live here. It's what we do. It's crazy little sports.
Right, but it's kind of like if we're gonna put money into shooting range in comparison to adding fat bike capability. I don't know that's worth it, but
that was
but
big in the community surveys and in the first round of the master development portion. So I was just wondering where, and I know it's kind of been sliding, the two spots roughly, so I was just seeing where that.
You could also shape, where the water tank is under the ground on the hill there. You could also shape, right, did a 30 meters ski jump in there? That was discussed as well.
There any chance with the way things have grown in town to bring the Gold Rush back to Main Street? Not
Yes.
feasible anymore.
So yes, I think especially if we're allowed to groom the rec path, that was a little bit of I think it was an elk quarter issue. But if we started drag grooming rec path, we were pretty far down that road. Was it 3 years ago? I think we talked about. We can
3 or 4.
We can get there.
I would love to see it back in Main Street.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
Yeah, and then I would love to do like a fat bike crit, a night fat bike crit, something we could do something.
We have ideas.
We have.
We don't stop having ideas.
Is the rec path issue right now? Is that just working with the county and the Forest Service on the drag grooming portion?
Starts with the Forest Service. Their piece is their piece, and the last communication I got from them was, since that's a part of your plan for the backyard, we'll get to it. So, yeah.
Oh, the last one's probably more. Do we have, I can't remember now if we have a Spanish speaking intensive pay for hiring. We have a.
Yes,
we do. Okay.
Yeah,
3%.
down. Percent.
yeah, what about offering schooling for people who want or feel like you have to get them to a conversational.
Yes, that's the problem. We have talked about it and trying to see what we can do. And it's really just everybody has a different style and proficiency of. And maybe just try to get some of the main conversational pieces we need to be able to speak or the common questions we get to have answers to that. But we have talked about that as well, but I think it's my road.
Basic Spanish helps, but then you see a native speaker or a fluent speaker and it's whole another level.
Yeah. What was parking this winter? Between all of the.
On weekends and peak times, it's tight. Yeah, with the removal of the signs right next to the Nordic Center and on where the slope side currently is now, we were able to start diagonal parking there later in the season. But it is packed. So yeah, I'm just thinking about slope side also in the future. And knowing that there's, that might open the door for increase in other people if we have. One of our goals would be when camp's not taking place in winter, that we could have 150 kid field trip can now have a space to have their lunch, after their tubing time, they can utilize. So now you're just, we're adding more people. So it is something I definitely be thinking about for the future and even the access on that crosswalk too. But yeah, this winter, I mean, I would say every Saturday, Sunday for sure.
It
Friday.
inconveniences the locals more, and they try and avoid it, but I guess they think they're on vacation, it is what it is. They'll park, and they'll park anywhere.
They're creative.
On the picture last year, right now. The end of the day, we had, red plate right behind there. But yeah, it has been challenging on the busy times. And, the nice thing with tubing is it's a 1 hour, I mean, you're having turnover at least, so it's creating spots. So if you circle long enough, somebody's leaving their tubing time for any Nordic guest that might be coming over too. But typically a Nordic guest is going to stay a little longer because they're probably going to go out and ski loop and think so. But I think that can be part of our problem while people are accessing from different areas too.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and the issue of unpaid skiers, almost need to man the lot up above. Where people park and then go ski.
Well,
And the other thing is, and there wasn't a bullet on that, but the plan now is we're going to close that upper lot.
Oh, yeah.
Approval from the Forest Service and the county. And Jeff would like to store snow there,
Love that.
so, because it'll force people to come down, and if it reduces the major point of entry of the boaters, we can discourage them, so we will have someone with the yellow vest down at the access point at the bottom of the rec path, so that will help a lot, because it's just too easy. If there's free parking closer to the trail you want to ski, people can't help themselves.
Sure.
Do you know, are people poaching the trails, more locals, are they visitors, is there a mix?
Everything, a lot of locals, and it's a painful, because they don't have a ticket, and it's in the car, and I'm a longtime season pass holder, and it's just, the stories go on, and there's just it's just too easy for people to just think, it's just me, and I'm just gonna go for half an hour, I'll just hop on the trail.
Is there, so what happens when somebody, when the volunteers are out there and they're like, hey, can I see your ticket or your pass? What happens when they don't have one? Like, what do you guys do?
They, the response is always, it's in the car, or I didn't know. And so all we can do is have them turn around. And it's something we could work with, our community about it's a code. I don't know if it's more law enforcement or code enforcement, but yeah, that is something we do need to get to, what that starts to look like, because something, it has, I think it'll change, at least if we close that trailhead parking in the winter, at least it'll get people's attention. And if we can put a sign that says there is free rec path skiing, just go Miners Creek. But it's a shame it's come to that.
Parking goes range.
It's kind of.
Yeah. Would it be useful? I don't know if it's feasible, but is there some sort of, would it be, some sort of ambassador program, or maybe you offer some sort of punch pass to people that want to volunteer? And I don't even know how it would work in the winter. You could even have a handheld card reader that you can be buy your pass right now. I don't know, just to force it. I know that's probably way.
It's we're close to that. So the FDRD volunteers had a yellow vest, and they skied around, and we paid them with punch passes, and they were a question of, hey, do you have your pass yet? So our point of sale system is a little, it's not set up to do what you described, but I think that is going to be part of the enforcement. If you could at least get to a point where someone says, well, it's in the car, or I'm a season pass holder, but I forget my name. The names, it gets ridiculous, but anyway, if you put out
That doesn't raise our liability.
so we could say, great, let me just say I can take it. But then people are going, my phone, So it's gonna take a little bit of everything to just kind of harden the Nordic Center, make it a little harder to poach. And then also I would like to put our ambassadors into a position where they could take payment.
I mean, it's just a bummer that you put so much work into this place and. You know, maybe they, I don't know, it just bugs me.
And our season pass holders, it drives them nuts.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but
Because
they,
they're-
you know, their neighbor, they know their neighbor's poaching.
Yeah.
And it bugs them.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
So we can't just take their ski and say you can come pick it up with your payment. Just one.
I know chief should be up there. So, shit.
But I'll add two more things with having volunteers. The volunteers have been great, but at some point, yeah, it's very. It's a crushing day, as you put it, when you'd be getting so many of them, but also. It's, you know, it takes a certain personality to want to approach somebody that, hey, guys, you guys. So we, you know, that's something we want to move forward during our paid team, just having a paid staff member who's confident and they're choosing that, you know, to approach that person. To
Interstate, yes.
But
There you go.
getting serious. I think it's mostly information needs.
That is change. Is it, I think I'm somewhat Liz was saying. I know, and this would just be something we could suggest when you sell season passes, is on the My Colorado app where your driver's license is. I know they're pushing hard to get everything. You can get your hunting license, your fishing license, all show up on there. I actually have photos of all my, like my search and rescue credentials, my flight card, so. You know, like, yes, I know all the excuses, Pete, and 5,000 more on why people don't have passes or their name or anything else, but. Something we could push when they get it is just take a photo of it, then it's always on their phone. Cause yeah, I bet most of them are Stravaing anyway.
And that's what
Seeing the
they're
line, but-
doing in the, so we
Yeah.
have 3 or 4 partially publicly funded Nordic centers in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and that's what they do, is they say you just have to carry some proof.
Yeah.
Because most people are buying it online at home, you have to carry some proof that, that's a great,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do that.
Like, cause then it's one, it's just a great, like, I know from a lot of the emergency services rounds and everything, they're pushing like consolidation on your stuff, so you have it. And everybody has their phone, that might be a place we can, where to go. I don't think you were joking, but is it the winter to have Interstate to look at what the benefits of doing weekend paid parking management plan with the new day lodge over the new building coming online next year.
Paid parking,
Paid parking.
we're gonna get there. I mean. if
Should we be
not a
ahead of
plan
it, or are
now,
we not there yet?
Would you build in, I think it would be nice, I think we're gonna need to throw a bone to our season pass holder. They're local, they deserve this.
They can park in the B1 lot.
But yes, it's out there at some point, but. Yeah, it's the conversation that has to happen, maybe you get X hours with your season pass.
Like not implemented in a couple months, let's.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I said, do we look at it this year, ask Interstate to go, look where it's going there, see what the benefits could be and how we implement it when the new building comes online.
I remember many years ago when I worked for the town of Frisco as a flower attendant. And there was a program, maybe it still exists, hopefully. Where every time you didn't drive to work, like if you took the bus, you walked, you rode a bike. You could go in and get a punch from, back then it was Teresa, but you get so many punches and then you were like, I forget what you got, like a couple $100 or something. I don't remember what the incentive was, but you know, there could be a way. And unfortunately, I'm not going to push this on pass holders, but you know, they might be incentivized to participate if they were getting, I don't know, something. Ride your fat bike to Nordic skiing. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, I don't know, car sharing or something to incentivize anybody to, you know, after so many punches, you get free lunch.
We do still have that program at the town, so we do still encourage our staff to carpool, or ride their bikes, whatever it looks like. And I think just the trickier thing is there's no public transportation, as we all know, is not a good Frisco Adventure Park, and we do see a big amount of users, maybe not skiers, because it's very gear intensive. But a lot of folks at Tube are either walking through the tunnel, they're, riding the summit stage, or Uber. I mean, we have a very high number that use public transportation, that come here and take a shuttle up, and then none of the resorts obviously drop off at the day lodge. But I think that public transportation piece is still tricky because we have a lot of people that
A lot more would for sure, the amount that we get asking about it, and then we walk them through where to go.
Send them
Because they have
messages.
little kids, or like, it would be convenient if it was on-site, obviously, and then. A lot of them will come that way, but because the bus is only once an hour, or, oh, I just missed it, now I've got 5 kids, and we're not gonna stand outside the cold, so it's just. There's a lot of limitations to, I think it would have, especially people that stay in other parts of the county who do take transportation to the ski resort or pastime, so. I think that's something that if we could improve upon, it would be utilized more, because we could add it to the website, hey, when you come visit, just hop on here. And, it would be that much easier for, especially families that are guys too.
A public question, I think, like, if could jump in. But what would be the point of paved parking? I get it on Main Street because we want to turn. But I don't know anybody that goes out there and parks for the day, walks into town. You go there because you're making use of it, and when you're done tubing or skiing, you don't leave your vehicle there. So if it's a revenue, just raise the rate. If it's because we want to create turn, I would say, is that a problem? Because I just don't see people walking out there and saying, I'll walk to town because it's free parking. It's simple.
Sledding hill is the old.
So I think it, personally, raise the rates, otherwise it feels like you're going down.
Very good point, appreciate that.
One last question. Do we know how big of an issue it is coaching?
Yes, it's at $20,000 to $30,000. I mean, we're looking at 10 to 20 people a day on a weekend. It's a $27 trail pass, not bad. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's up
Other questions, thoughts?
Just maybe you guys covered it before I came in, how much impact does the free sledding hill have on parking? We monitor that.
Really any given day in winter time, I won't be that a good ballpark too.
It's probably, if there's, sorry, I used to know the numbers in the Nordic lot. It is probably 90% of the space is
In the
taken
northern
by.
lot, so I would guess that too.
Yeah,
I think there's 55
On
spaces in
weekend.
the northern lot.
there's the sledding.
That makes total sense, just from
And that's a fun activity, yeah, and non-paid activity,
because you can watch the traffic across the street all day.
yeah.
And a lot of our Nordic season pass holders access from the ball field side anyway, because you have that direct trail access. So a lot of our Nordic pass holders wouldn't necessarily park in the Nordic Center lot. Day users would, but season pass holders go where they could jump right on the snow.
And a lot of, we see 3 types of sledders in general, those that just want to go because it's sledding hill, it's cheap. Those that are turned away because they didn't make a reservation for tubing, so it's the consolation activity. And 3 would be their kids are truly do not meet the height requirements. We're like, oh, we can still put them on your lap right on the hill. So we see a little bit of everything. But yeah, as far as the lot goes, I would agree that that's probably accurate. And more so on weekends, but I think any given weekday as well, or we're closed Tuesday, Wednesday, so then you could easily see on those days where we're not, it's where the tubing hill, but Nordic Center is still operating during that time. At least the overflow and kind of the day lodge side.
One last plug for the kids paintball triathlon.
No, throw paintball in there. Okay, line up the list.
Get that colored snow.
They do.
And they can enforce people who don't have passes, they can shoot anything. Then we'll know that. All majors.
Actually,
You can rent the guns, put them in the stations, the kids beat up, take their shots and go.
But they no longer do it up there.
They don't.
Okay. Had made their baby.
Wild dogs, keep all those.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Like, kid, Rick, I think you said kids. I really appreciate it. Nice work. Thank you. Here's to a equally successful career out there.
We're doing it. Fun time next week, guys.
What's this one? It is the wrong time. It's recorded.
I never knew.
So.
We just go. No. We're not owners, but I wish I had known that.
You guys did for this job, so.
Yeah.
You set up your systems.
No. I didn't take any gear. I just haven't been able to. I just had to pick my drawers, but I wish I had known that.
It accelerated.
You know, you pay to spend 3 hours a week.
Oh, my.
Be for a half day. Boy, I better get a lot.
Patient side.
Just all more than you need for your.
For any.
Choices. Yeah, that decision. Damn it, we can trade it in.
So the decision you can find what you're gonna drink.
I was making, you know.
The games. You got reinforced. Is it gonna be?
It's the team.
We could almost stay his own. Maybe you're enough, right?
Sure. But I don't live in Frisco, so.
Oh, yeah.
I work in the town, that's it. I'm used to it.
Actually.
On 87.
Hey, Tom.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. So if you just let me kick it off for a couple of seconds. Go ahead.
All right. And with that,
Are we
I
ready?
think we're ready. All right. Jump right in.
First, I want to compliment staff and our consultants for the hard work that they've done on this to really get us to a true picture of what a project like this is going to cost. You know, today we're going to talk about what the project would entail, following all of our strategic goal or the town's strategic goals, and then, you know, within that, what a project like this will cost. You know, as Addison and I have been and staff have been wrestling with this project. And within the staff report, we talk about how it hits all of our strategic goals. You know, we're talking about a town asset in Old Town Hall that's been was built in 1899, has been used for town purposes the whole time. So it has some historic nature to it. We also talk about when we're Slopeside Hall as an example. You know, we are now building sustainability and our climate action goals. Whenever we're doing projects, those are very important to these types of estimates. We're also have inclusivity, and when we think of inclusivity with this type of project, we're talking about accessibility to anybody, as well as, you know, because this has public bathrooms with it, we're talking inclusivity in regards to how those bathrooms work. We're certainly supportive of the historic Main Street and how we support our economy with this asset. And then from the standpoint of just core services, this is a town asset, and we should, if we're going to continue to use it to support all of our strategic goals, then we need to recapitalize it, just as we're going to talk in the future about recapitalizing a lot of different things over time that are the towns. All of that comes at a cost. And we now know what that cost is going to be, and it's expensive, to say the least. Our purpose here in talking about this in work session is really not to talk about, you know, are you willing at this point to increase the budget and let's move on with the project. That's not what we're suggesting. We want to spark a discussion amongst the council about all those strategic objectives and what they mean, not only to this project, but also thinking in the future as we, you know, as we have to recapitalize buildings that we use in the historic park. Those are going to be expensive. As we talk about the 2 buildings that we have in storage and what's going to happen with those, whatever we do with those is going to be expensive per square foot, you know, those types of things. So it's also talking about the bigger vision and all of them goals. And that's what staff is hoping to get out of this. We're certainly making a recommendation that if the council feels that the project still warrants the cost, that actually we don't just add to the budget in 2023 and move forward, that we put it into the 2024 budget process against all of our other capital needs and evaluate it against that. If the answer is no, it's not worth it, then we have to ask some further questions about then what do we do? So with that, turn over to that.
All right. Thank you, Tom. You know, I really appreciate, Tom, you know, this team as a whole, which, you know, I'd like to start out just introducing. I think, you know, a lot of the same players, but, you know, we have Dave Detweiler here from Wember, you know, our owner's rep on the project. We have Sarah Hoover with Wember as well. And I won't mention Matt, you guys know that. We have Fred Newcomer here from the SAIT, you know, we have Jess, you know, as well. So, you know, we have a lot of time, a lot of effort. And, you know, when we left our last meeting, you know, we had our marching orders. And it was, okay, we have $1.6 million. Let's see what we can do with that. Well, as I've sat in front of this council numerous times, you know, to develop a better process and a data-driven process. So doing so, to Tom's point, you know, now we have all of the factual data, what it would cost to fully remodel and expand this facility, expand bathrooms, you know, and have a little bit of work scope in there as well. You know, without getting too much into the history of the facility, I think this is a very unique, and me being just a, you know, having a passion, history, especially a history of Frisco and the projects that have gone on in Frisco. This is a very unique facility. And okay, what did the town need 125 years ago? Well, we need a town. Great. Well, you know, outside of town hall, what can it do? Well, it could be a community gathering space, an event center, this type of stuff.
you know, you keep fast forwarding on that and it's just always filled this community. You know, when the decision was made to build this facility, you know, that left an opening there again. What can that be used for? Well, geez, Summit County Preschool needs a place to go. So, you know, it was used as a child care facility for the community as well. Keep fast forwarding and here we are with our information center. So it seems like what's ingrained in the structure is just filling that community. And the original intent in coming to council was, okay, there's a continual need for this facility to enhance and keep, I won't say propping up, but for some reason propping it, I can think of right now, just help enhance the Main Street corridor and being a contributor economically and getting people here and staying here, you know, so they can contribute. We can get into some of that if we need to, but you know, and the need now is to just continue that economic driving and restrooms. You know, that's a big need. That's something that's been heard since this project first came to this council. You know, it's a big community need, and you know, since the park scope was brought into that, just revamping that as an entire project site. So here we are. You know, we've been through this entire process. Again, the last time we were here, it was what can we do utilizing the services of MW Golden, doing some pre-con work for us and getting us to where our estimate is for construction and getting this thing fully built. We are, you know, we're sitting at 2.3 million and change. So, and we have that. We got an estimate for the park as well. And just to quickly go through the park scope, because we don't need to really get into that. We got an estimate and we are going to do our magic as a team, just like we did with the marina. We'll do some quality VE. We'll keep the design intent. We'll keep the intent for getting people there. You know, we just need to dial it back a little bit to get it, you know, within budget. So we'll take the reins. We're very successful in doing that before, so we'll do it again. So on that note, again, I want to have a nice discussion about it and we can start firing away with whatever question.
Basically, the bathrooms on Main Street for people to use need to be functional and updated. I mean, that's for sure. I think the historic aspect is important of this particular building.
You say, good, holding off until next budget cycle and do it.
Well, sure, because it's got to be in the budget, you know, I mean, like, we're not just gonna pull 2.3 million out of a hat. You know, so we got a plan on that, and I know, Tom, you've got some maybe creative ways to finance it in the future. I'm gonna leave that on you.
Well, I mean, I think in the big picture, when you're looking, well, even shorter term, looking at the 24 budget, adding this extra $700,000 in is gonna cause a choice to be made. Now, that's without knowing what our fund balances are going into 24. I think what our revenue is gonna actually produce this year, although it's doing well. But there's never enough capital dollars to do everything that the town wants to do. So there's gotta be choices to be made. And that's a big number to absorb.
right? And so, we would have no idea, but what are those choices? Do we have any clue? Is it like not doing granite if we do that, or is it, I know granite's already in the budget, but,
I don't know that answer yet.
That's just where in the capital plan, where we would really have to do our analysis of what's sitting there currently, what we're planning on. And hoping to accomplish first, okay, we throw this piece in here, what do we take out? So we remain, balanced.
I mean, I think, as I appreciate this and Tom will work out the night. Support of kind of following your recommendation of slowing down. Going through the budget process, doing it right. And I think I go back to other projects that we pushed too hard on. We started them and we didn't get what we truly wanted out of them. And those weren't on the corner of Main Street and with the historic significance that this building has. And I think that's why. While I hate to slow it down, and I think the bathroom part is, we know we get the feedback everywhere. We get feedback on bathrooms. Getting it done right is more important, and it's at the risk of slowing it down even further. I wonder, is this? Are we looking too small of scope, and is this a time to also revisit potentially the community building? They're all adjacent. Are we trying to cram too much into one lot there when we have, how much work have we done in that community center over the years to keep it from, roof falling down and floors from warping?
With my public works knowledge of that facility, a lot more than a little.
And I know, and that's, that's a building that just kind of ebbs and flows in the conversation and has for years. And I don't know if this project specifically, are we trying too hard to make what's the existing footprint work for something that we actually have a lot more space behind it? Is it time to incorporate the bathroom conversation into the first and main conversation and the community center? And do we have, we've got kind of 3 points right within 2 blocks of each other on Main Street. And are we doing too much in too small and too important of a spot? Or is this the right spot, a great plan? And maybe that's what we work through in the capital project process next year. I think we have a lot of opportunity where we can focus a little more. Focus more broadly, does that work? Focus more broadly on what you're doing. But I think, those are just 2 other buildings that always come up in conversations that are underutilized. Particularly the community center, we put so much money in maintaining something we try to do other things with. Is it time to look at that as a part of the Old Town Hall project? And I don't know. I think that's a question to council events. I think that gives us time to, have staff think about that more, see if that is a viable addition to this as we go through the bigger budgeting process and what this should look like. I know where you stand on that, so.
Well, I believe in them.
Yes.
And I think the only non-debatable point of this is our bathrooms need to be upgraded. Everything else is open to conversation. To the short question, do I think we should spend 2.3 million and just say go? No. We are at a reflection point. And things that I want to, if we're going to delay, my request would be when you come back. I don't want to tear this building down and build something not in line. Yeah, the architectural integrity of the history of this building to me is worth having on Main Street. Do we need 125-year-old beams on Main Street? No. If it's going to cost us $500,000 to build the same building with 125-year-old beams or new beams, put some steel in there and then make these forever. So, do I want something reflective of what we currently have? Yes. But let's talk about tearing the building down and building it in a way that's environmentally sustainable, more functional. I even have a problem if you're going to say we want to maintain this 1899 building, but we're going to put solar panels on the top. That doesn't make any sense to me. if we're going hardcore historical, keep that. This building, it's got asphalt shingles on it. I don't know what the siding is, but I know the siding's not original. You know, so let's talk about what's it costing us to renovate instead of replace? What's it costing us to be net zero instead of to code? Because maybe this isn't the building that, if we're going to renovate, maybe this isn't the building that's worth going to net zero. And
I think I don't want to get anybody's hopes up for making this existing facility, an old facility, you know, net zero. We're doing it in the most sustainable manner for a retrofit that we can possibly achieve. And you're right, if we were to tear down or scrape, you know, what have you, then I think if you were starting from scratch, there could be more integral ways of doing it, like we had done with Slopeside Hall. You know, it's always easier to plan on those things when you're developing the plan. I mean, I would like to believe that's the easiest way to go about it, instead of fitting it into an existing structure. You know, one thing that there is a potential on with this, in removing the gas service, removing the gas-fired boiler to an electric boiler, using, you know, heating pumps, that type of stuff. You know, in discussing that, you know, there's if we were to be awarded the grant funding, you know, there is the grant funding out there for that type of stuff. You know, solar, I think, if that were to come to fruition for this facility, that, you know, that would be down the road a little bit more, again, based on some funding and viability and stuff like that for, is what would we have to do to the roof, you know, that type of stuff comes up with that as well. So, you know, we're being as sustainable as we can, given the facility to work on. So I think I probably, I think I misspoke in the memo, so my apologies on that for net zero or anything like that.
No, again, I just, when this conversation started, I will defer to somebody who has a better memory than me, but I think we were given within the footprint option at 600,000 or expand the footprint at $1 million. And I can tell you, my view was 600,000 is plenty for new bathrooms. I don't understand the functionality and the expansion. Then the conversation went to $1.6 million, and now we're at 2.3. I still, we need bathrooms. You know, and that's what this conversation in my head is about. The fact that good work has been done to get to where we are is important, but I don't want to chase good money after bad money after gets good money after bad. So yes, let's put it all and let's throw it all out there. I'll bring options. This is what, go back to 600,000 and $1 million. Do you want this or do you want that? Okay, that's mine. Again, I defer to me. Everybody else. That's it. Yeah. I'm 1/7.
I'm gonna use that tomorrow.
So Brian doesn't use it too. Thoughts? I'm good. The next year.
I agree. It's hard because you all know how I am about historical buildings and stuff. I mean, at this point, sometimes I just feel like giving up, you know, being like, whatever. But at the same time, you know, it'd be cool to see what's possible. Keeping that building and what can we do with that community space and that one right over there. It'd be kind of neat to see, I don't know, maybe we can even do some kind of, I don't know, I'm not that this would be from that space, but just, you know, like what could we do with the aesthetic of the other two buildings and what's possible for new buildings, and could we create like new kind of historical feel or something that makes it still quaint and little, feeling downtown. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Just noticing all the new architecture around town, which is, it looks nice, most of it looks pretty. You know, but it would be neat to retain some of our little Frisco vibe. And I'm just saying, say we tore down the community center and we made something new there. I'm just saying, like, maybe we kept Old Town Hall, we could match it up in some way to, you know what I mean, like a step.
Sorry to jump back in, but while we're doing this delay, I would love to do a code review, see what we're allowed to do. Because we've done a lot with our code on Main Street and architectural. Well, I'd hate to think that we're not allowed to rebuild a building that looks like it was built in 1899. It would. But I think there's a good shot that we don't allow that. So let's see what we need to do to preserve. And I know Breckenridge has done a nice job. What it is relative to creating the historic look.
Absolutely, yeah, I can connect with Katie Kemp on that, we can do a little deep dive and see what's plausible.
I mean, overall, you know, if there's a way to keep that building, I'm always for that because it's been there forever. And to me, that is significant for, but you know, I also worked at the Historic Park and Museum. And so many people would come through there and ask, like, what buildings are original, and there, you know, it was Old Town Hall, Staley Rouse House, and the school. And now we're down to the Old Town Hall and the school. So it'd just be kind of cool to have something on Main Street. Because once that building's gone, the only thing left is the schoolhouse.
That's for sure.
And I don't know, it's just, for me, it's something that I think about, and I don't know financially, you know, is it worth it? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm in support of the historic value of that building and, you know, taking it down and just having the facade doesn't equate to, you know, having a cool historic. But I'll tell you what, First and Main building and the SOS building, there is nothing appealing.
Right.
Building.
Very cool. Yeah.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but
Pretty soon they're gonna be part of this.
that's the thing, and then it's in rebuilding those, you know, you do sort of, I hate to say, but what, I don't know, I hate to say it, what Rob Philippi has done with a few of his buildings where, you know, it's got the facade of it, looks like, you know, Old West sort of front. It's not a historic building, you know, these other buildings, and boy, these buildings are, you know, just to be piled money into them for them to just sit there and
Yeah.
nobody uses. I know nobody uses First and Main other than us, but you know, the SOS building. SOS, and that's, it gets rented out. We've got a food security. Well,
Also, I mean, it is like a, you know, it's become like a cultural space as well for other cultures and their events. So that's also kind of a thing that we should think about, because, and I'm not saying I want to keep that building. I'm just saying if we were to deal with that community center space and do something different, you know, it would be cool to maybe think about what other spaces could we create or whatever they could.
Jesse, I know you're online. Any additions, thoughts?
Apologies, I'm having a little bit of trouble following the conversation just as more people talk at the same time. But what Andy Held was saying, just related to like taking your broader approach, but rather you know, targeting the community center and First and Main because of, you know, it's lack of perceived historical value, I think is spot on. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is I agree with Andy Held in that respect. And then but related to the Old Town Hall, I just, you can cut it a whole lot of different ways. So I guess I would like to see a little bit more cost benefit analysis, not just on the like literally the cost, but also some of the other community values that you guys have all kind of hit on here and there. So fun. I love how bathrooms lead to these conversations.
So, sounds like we've got good support to
Put it through the budget.
put it through the budget process. Do we have a need to, I know it wouldn't be able to come from the capital fund, but do we need to do something similar to what we've done at Marina and get the nicer portable bathroom facilities for the summer? Let's say the back parking lot of First and Main or something, or are we not there yet? Do we know?
I haven't heard a need for that, but let me explore that.
And I know, because it is a bathroom conversation.
Okay.
And we've done that in the past, and I say, if the need is there, we hit critical use. I would be in support of figuring out a way to do what we do with the funds, since we're not spending any of this now to rent a nice portable bathroom facility.
You know, it sounds like from the conversation, and I think this is part of it, and it's funny that Jesse said that about bathrooms kind of driving the conversation. I think all over downtown, whenever a town facility is being talked about, we're gonna be talking about bathrooms.
Yeah, but outside access public.
Yep.
And if I can, actually, also for events and all, like access to good potable water is really important. It's one of the things we heard about, the music the other night. It was like, there's nowhere to fill up my water bottle. Like, and we're not supposed to have plastic water bottles at all. And I know there's one in the VIC right now, I'm pretty sure, a water bottle filler.
Yeah.
And they're planned in the remodel as well.
And, right, yeah, that's it,
But you're right, along with that public bathroom, we'll have to talk, yes, value as well. That'll go along with it.
And if I could just jump in with one more thing, and that is, to Tom's point, the bathrooms have sort of driven this conversation, and really we need to, I think what budget process and sort of strategic planning will lead us to is we need to be driving this conversation with a broader vision and not letting bathrooms like take the lead. And I think that's ultimately, I think what we're trying to get to.
Agreed. What else needed from us, Addison? Clear? Good, Tom?
Clear.
All right.
we're. Thank you so much.
Yep, appreciate it. Thanks, team, for all coming. And
Thanks for the opportunity.
yeah, then on work session, we got ample time for dinner, and Matt, room takers are welcome to stay and grab dinner if you want. Have enough.
It is a little bit after 7 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular session of the Frisco Town Council. Have the roll call, please.
Aronson. Burley. No, absent. Held.
Here.
Palenko is absent. Incan.
Here.
Mortensen.
Here.
Scripcheck Adrian.
Next up this evening's public comment. Anyone wishing to make public comment for something that is not on this evening's agenda may do so now. Can you please topic specific and state your name and address for the record. If you're online, you can unmute yourself, raise your hand. I'll call on you. None online, no one in chambers. We'll close public comment. Back to mayor and council comments. I do not. At least one. I would like to welcome Katie Kent back. Small hiatus to realize this was the place to be, and I'm glad you are back. So welcome back. Looking forward to working with you.
Very excited.
Great. Tom, any updates that weren't in the packet?
I had quite a few, actually.
Excellent. So
Okay, so this Thursday night, first Thursday night concert, 5:30 to 7:30. And it is Gold Pine. Heard that band before. Want to thank all the staff, vendors, HC3, and of course the bands for our summer opening concert. Quite a good event, well attended, and well put on. Tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, Thursday, from 9:30 to 12, we have Hillary has a scrap tour set up for us, whoever wants to attend. I can get you more information, or you can RSVP with Kyle on that if you'd like to join in on that. Thursday. We have stakeholder meetings and public open house for the Granite Street Design Project. That's tomorrow. Stakeholder meeting is from 2:30 to 3:30, and then public open house from 4:30 to 6:30 at the community center. Just wanted to let the council know that we did not receive the CDOT TAP grant for our sidewalk project on Highway 9. So we will be regrouping on that from a budget process. It wasn't scheduled to be constructed until 2024 anyway. So we have some time to deal with that.
thank you. Scrap tour is well worth it. Put that in. Fascinating. Next up then is a presentation from the Frisco Elementary School and its video.
May we show you that at the next meeting? We're having some technical difficulties with
Absolutely.
the
We're-
video, but they
yep.
put together a really nice video, and I'll try to send the link to you guys or do it at the next meeting.
So
Thank you so much.
no problem. But they have a nice thank you. Looking forward to seeing that video when we can get our tech working with us instead of against us. Moving on then is to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda by Mayor Pro Tem Incan. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Scripsack Adrian. Is there any discussion on the motion? Call the question, please.
Burley is absent. Held.
Yes.
Palenko is absent. Incan.
Yes.
Mortensen.
Yes.
Scripcheck Adrian.
Yes.
Aronson.
Yes.
Consent agenda passes. Next up is new business. This is agenda item number 1. This is a planning commissioner vacancy appointment. Open up the public hearing, turn over to staff. And we'll go right to the committee. Tom, is that the best? So we did form a committee of council members, Andy and Andy. We did an application period for a month and a half, 2 months, I think. Went through all of those. I helped Andy Held go through the original application list. Narrowed it down to 4 to bring in for interviews. And Andrew and Andy were able to interview all of the candidates, and I believe you have proposal for council and the nomination for a planning commissioner appointment.
Either way.
That's fine. You go for it. You
Um,
pick better notes.
yeah, we had wonderful interviews with the candidates. In the end, Andy and I agreed that the recommended candidate is April Conley. She is a retired software product manager, which created an understanding that while not a professional within the planning process, which none of the candidates were, she has great skills in kind of learning, great skills in understanding the process that we use. She is a Frisco groupie in that she actually has watched a number of planning commission meetings and council meetings. She was generally impressive, you know. So we were in agreement that she is the candidate that we would like to put on to the planning commission.
I would say she had a good professional ability to understand how plans come together, how you follow a plan. She had a familiarity with our strategic plan and goals and the complete streets plan and all, and she, I would say, was also the candidate that we felt would meld best with the planning commission, and also as not being an expert in the area, she's a citizen representative on the planning commission, which we've been lacking since our last go round. Yeah, so that we were in agreement there.
Thank you. I'm gonna add one more accolade to her, to the conversation with her, which is she understood that part of being on planning commission, which I have not been, but Andy was. Part of being on planning commission is plan review, which is not all that exciting, but it is the majority of what they do. And part of being on planning commission is the forward-thinking plans that we often put in front of them for comment. And she was equally excited about both. Looks forward to working with staff to train her up to be a good member.
Appreciate your time doing that. I'll open up for public comment. Is there anyone who should make public comment? This particular appointment conversation. None, I'll close public comment. Back to council discussion. I'd just like to thank everybody who applied and are interested. I think it's great that we had that many applicants, that people want to be a part of the community they live in. And planning commission plays a hugely valuable role, as we've seen the past few months. Even it's how important they are to working with us and on the behalf of the town and the community. So I appreciate everybody's interest, and particularly April's. Do we just need to do a recommendation, a motion to appoint?
I move that we appoint April Conley to the Frisco Planning Commission.
Been moved to appoint April Conley to the Frisco Planning Commission by Councilmember Aronson. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Held. Any discussion on the motion? Call the question.
Aronson,
Yes.
Burley is absent, Held,
Yes.
Halenko is absent, Incan,
Yes.
Mortensen,
Yes.
Scripcheck Adrian.
Yes.
She has been appointed to our planning commission, April. We look forward to working with you. Next is old business. This is agenda item number 2. This is the second reading ordinance 23-11, an ordinance amending chapter 124 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Frisco, Colorado concerning public health and safety by adding a new article 4 thereto to authorize the enforcement of certain town laws by community relations technician. I'll open up the public hearing, turn it over to Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As noted, this is second reading of this ordinance. It was adopted on first reading by all members present. There have been no changes to the ordinance since the first reading. As suggested by the title, this establishes a new law enforcement officer, but it is a non-sworn officer, not a post-certified officer. It is also an enforcement officer that will work under the auspices of the Community Development Department. That officer is authorized to enforce any and all municipal code provisions, with the exception of anything that is criminal or traffic related. There are minor exceptions, and with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Do we make public comment on this agenda item? Public comment. I'll close public comment. Back to council.
Yes, I did have a question.
Nope, you missed it.
I thought I heard you say 23-11.
That,
I have 17 in my.
It is a typo in the packet.
Ah.
My fault. It was correct in the first reading and it is not correct in your packet right now. I apologize.
Okay.
reading of tonight,
Is it 2311?
yes.
Yep, it is 11.
Good call.
Mayor, I move to approve the second reading ordinance.
And move to approve on second reading by Councilmember Held. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Incan. Any discussion on the motion? All the questioning.
Scripchick Adrian,
Yes.
Aaronson,
Yes.
Burley is absent, Held,
Yes.
Palenko. Absent, Incan,
Yes.
Mortensen.
Yes. That passes. That will be an exciting position to have within the town. Looking forward to that. Finally, this is agenda item number 3. This is the second reading of ordinance 23-16, an ordinance repealing and reenacting chapter 167 of the code of the town of Frisco relating to vehicle and traffic, adopting by reference the 2020 edition of the model traffic code for Colorado, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith and providing penalties for violation thereof. I'll open up the public comment or public hearing and back to Thad.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, second reading, this ordinance was approved on first reading by the vote of all, a unanimous vote of all members present. The only change to the ordinance since first reading was a filling in of the blank. We were holding a date on which this ordinance will become effective, even though it'll be finally adopted tonight. Ordinances can state a later date for effectiveness. This one states August 1st. And the reason we've gone out that far is to make certain that the police department has all of the newly printed citation forms that will reflect the new model traffic code. Again, this adopts the latest, greatest version of the model traffic code, makes the same amendments to this code that the town had made to previous versions of the model traffic code that it adopted. I don't have a driving quiz, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions? I'll have to take the quiz. No.
No.
No. I will open up for public comment. Anyone wish to make public comment on this agenda item? Being none online and none in chambers, I'll close public comment back to council. I have a traffic code.
Oh,
Motion to approve it.
sure. So Mayor, I move to approve the second reading of ordinance 2316.
Then move to approve on second reading by Councilmember Scripsack Adrian. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Held. Any discussion on the motion? Public question?
Mortensen,
Yes.
Scripchick Adrian,
Yes.
Aaronson,
Yes.
Burley is absent, Held,
Yes.
Palenko is absent, Incan.
Yes. As well. That's all that's on the agenda tonight.
Move to adjourn.
Let's do it. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Get the habit.